Hey guys, tonight we drift back in time about 800 years though, a quiet courtyard somewhere in medieval Persia. The moon is out, the air is dry and cool, and the stone beneath your feet is polished smooth from centuries of sandals, slippers, and occasional sleepwalkers. You're here for one reason, to fall asleep. And surprisingly, that was also a pretty big deal for people back then. You hear the soft crackle of a ceramic oil lamp, its blue glaze catching the low light. Just beyond the tiled archway, a servant fans gentle curls of saffron smoke into the air not to impress anyone. But because it's one of many mildly effective ways people tried to fall asleep in this time and place. It smells a bit sweet, a little dusty, and frankly you'd need about 6 handfuls to get a real effect. But they didn't know that yet, they just hoped. You tiptoe across the stone floor, trying not to slip. Even in the dim lighting, you can see its intricate pattern geometric swirls that lead nowhere, which feels appropriate. After all, you're trying to lose yourself, not find anything. A small clay bowl of warm vinegar and lavender oil waits beside your bedding. It's for soaking your feet. Whether this was a genuine sleep remedy or just a foot deodorant with high hopes remains a topic of mild academic disagreement. Historians still argue whether the combination was medicinal or just polite. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to know, where are you listening from and what time is it where you are? Drop it in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You sit on a rolled mattress called a lahaf. It's stuffing a curious blend of cotton and kapok fibers. Not quite memory foam, not quite supportive, just enough to make you question whether sleep is even physically possible, but you're committed now. A cat meanders past and curls up in a clay brazier that was definitely not meant for cats. You let it be. Across the courtyard, a woman hums softly as she pinches herbs into little clay, cups wild thyme, dried basil, even crushed fennel, which she claims helps untangle dream threads. You make a mental note not to untangle anything. You're here to be tangled gently into unconsciousness. It's surprisingly chilly out. Medieval Persian nights had that desert contradiction blazing heat by day and a kind of empty cold after sunset. Stone floors didn't help. The locals didn't exactly have radiant heating, but they did have creative ways of warming up the sleep space. Heated bricks wrapped in cloth were placed under the bedding, which sounds cozy until you accidentally step on one in the dark. In wealthier homes, sleep happened on raised wooden platforms with decorative curtains, often embroidered with Quranic verses or poetic lullabies. Some even had small basins of water under the bed, meant to cool the air through evaporation. Whether this actually worked is debatable. More often, it just made the cat curious. And then there's the incense. Saffron was prized, but too expensive to waste on average folks. Instead, you'd probably be handed a blend of sandalwood, rose petals, and just enough resin to make your nostrils tingle. The goal wasn't necessarily sedation. The goal was ritual, doing something with your hands and senses that meant it's time to stop thinking. In this world, bedtime wasn't rushed. It unfolded slowly, like unrolling a scroll you've read 100 times. You washed your face in rose water if you had it, or plain cold water if you didn't. You loosened your belt, something physicians often insisted was key to good digestion and proper dreaming. You'd likely recite a small prayer, not just for peace, but also to keep sleep demons at bay. Yes, those were real in people's minds. One such spirit, called the Quaz, was believed to whisper distracting thoughts just as you were falling asleep, sort of like the medieval Persian version of a podcast autoplaying at 1 a.m. To ward it off, people sometimes tied blue silk ribbons to the bedpost or whispered counter charms, which usually involved mentioning onions. Why onions? Historians still argue whether they symbolize cleansing, protection, or just strong breath. You settle deeper into your lahaf, grateful that no one's asking you to chant anything involving onions. The saffron smoke has faded into the background now, replaced by the crackling of the brazier and the distant sound of someone clearing their throat for the 10th time. Sleep, it seems, was a shared effort. It wasn't just about getting rest. In medieval Persia, dreams were thought to be a glimpse into other worlds, sometimes divine, sometimes troubling, always significant. You didn't just sleep. You traveled. And as every good traveler knows, you needed the right supplies. Tonight, yours include a goose feather fan, a sachet of dried jasmine tucked near your pillow, and a folded cloth embroidered with verses meant to invoke serenity. The cloth smells faintly of almonds. Or dust. You're too tired to tell the difference. Outside, someone murmurs the final lines of a bedtime poem possibly. Hafiz, maybe Rumi, maybe something less famous. Either way, it lingers in the cool air like the last warm breath before sleep takes over. And just as your eyes begin to close, you hear a rustle. Not a threat, just the wind nudging a fig leaf across the tiles. You're not gone yet, but you're almost there. You shift slightly on your lahaf, trying to find the sweet spot where your spine gives up and your brain follows. The stone floor beneath the mat has warmed slightly, either from the brazier or from sheer hope. Around you, sleep prepares its quiet ambush, but something nags. The pillow. Or rather, the not quite pillow. In medieval Persia, the pillow was both essential and endlessly debatable. Not because of embroidery or color, those were mostly afterthoughts, but because of what went inside it. Cotton was common but considered too yielding. Wool, too scratchy. Silk stuffing, if you were wealthy, yes, but it had a tendency to bunch up in odd ways, like sleeping on a well-fed snake. So most folks compromised with a mix of kapok, herbs, and if they were particularly ambitious, dried rose petals. That sounds romantic until you sneeze directly into your dreams. Tonight, your pillow leans toward practical, a rectangular bundle with the firmness of a half-baked loaf. You roll your head to one side and it sighs in protest. Some people, especially in wealthier homes, use the second pillow just for their armsa custom that left travelers from other cultures deeply confused. There are letters from confused Italian merchants asking why anyone would cradle their own elbow to sleep. The real debate, though, was about height. One physician swore the ideal head angle should match the slope of a setting sun. Another warned that if your head tilted below your heart, your dreams would fill with horses. That wasn't metaphorical, just horses. Historians still argue whether that was literal sleep science or a poetic metaphor gone rogue. You briefly consider swapping out your pillow for your rolled cloak and old traveler's trick. But then you remember this isn't your house, and someone has embroidered a prayer on the corner of your pillowcase. You can just barely make out the faded script. May sleep come softly, and may your dreams not interrupt your taxes. You smile. Persian humor has always been oddly bureaucratic. Someone nearby gives a great theatrical scythe universal signal for, I still can't sleep, but I'm trying to be polite about it. You pretend not to hear. Pillows in this time weren't just tools, they were thought to influence the mind. Scribes kept separate pillows for daytime naps and nighttime sleep, fearing that too much dreaming could blur into their waking hours. One apothecary's journal describes a customer who insisted on filling his pillow with crushed camphor and paper-thin shavings of sandalwood bark. His theory? The scent would cool the mind's fire. The result? He developed mild neck paralysis and extremely vivid dreams about being chased by geese. That journal entry ends with the word regrettable. You adjust your weight again, trying to mimic the reclining posture of ancient Persian scholar sewn, elbow bent, head slightly elevated, spine curved just enough to show you have opinions about poetry. This was a sleep pose recommended in multiple medical treatises. Not for comfort, mind you, but for internal harmony. You're not entirely sure which organs are supposed to harmonize in this position, but you give it a try anyway. Outside, a breeze rustles the thin linen curtain hanging in the archway. The stars are hidden behind a light haze just enough to mute the world, not erase it. You catch a glimpse of a servant in the distance adjusting someone else's bedding, maybe fluffing a pillow, maybe confiscating one. There were house rules after all. In some noble homes, pillows were considered so personal that they were embroidered with their owner's name and astrological sign. This was partly to discourage thievery and partly because astrology was everywhere. One court astrologer in the 12th century wrote that people born under Mercury should avoid goose-down pillows altogether. Why? Because it invites unrestful dreams and early balding. Historians still argue whether he was joking or just very tired of his bald cousin. You wonder briefly what your own pillow would say about you if it could talk. Then you remember that's a deeply cursed thought, and you let it go. The courtyard is quieter now. The brazier has dimmed to soft coals, casting faint orange circles on the tiled floor. Someone has added more incense, this time frankincense, which clings to the air like old silk. You close your eyes again and try to imagine the pillow being just a little softer. You picture it transforming into a gentle cloud, then a sleeping lamb, then a heap of laundry that doesn't ask anything of you. The transformation isn't physical, but your mind follows along anyway. Because here, in this half-historical, half-dreaming state, the ordinary becomes soothing. You're not fighting for sleep, you're just rearranging the conditions. Your pillow might not be perfect, but it's warm in one corner and smells faintly of cardamom, and right now, that's enough. Somewhere in the stillness, a cup clinks against a clay saucer. A sleepy hand fumbles for a spoon. You stir in your imagination before the cup even reaches your lips. Tonight's potion is thick, warm, and just a little too sweet. Milk infused with poppy seed, a dollop of honey, and maybe if the physician likes you, a pinch of crushed nutmeg. A medieval Persian sleep aid, passed from kitchen to bedroom like a whispered secret. It tastes like the end of a long day. You're not sure if the warmth is making you drowsy or if it's the mild sedative effect of the poppy infusion. Either way, your shoulders relax. Poppy seeds in Persia had a long medicinal history. Ground into paste, they were used to numb toothaches, soothe coughs, and in this case, invite dreams. It wasn't full-blown opium, no hallucinations, no deep trances, just the edges of sleep gently sanded smooth, but you had to get the dosage right. Too much, and you'd sleep through your own wedding. Too little, and you'd stay up all night composing passive-aggressive poetry. Historians still argue whether the honey was added for flavor or to keep the poppy from overpowering the spirit, as one court physician warned. You set your imaginary cup down, the warmth lingers in your throat, and suddenly, your blanket feels heavier. Or maybe that's just your limbs letting go. This bedtime brew wasn't reserved for royalty. Traveling merchants, clerics, scribes, anyone who could afford a handful of ingredients and a low flame tried it at some point. Recipes varied. Some included dates mashed into the milk, others added a few drops of vinegar to cut the sweetness. A particularly bold apothecary once stirred in powdered pearl, believing it calmed restless minds and twitching eyelids. You probably shouldn't try that one at home. You remember a story someone once mumbled near a fire about a boy who drank too much sleep milk and woke up 3 days later convinced he'd become a carpet. Not metaphorically. He refused to move until someone rolled him up. That story ends with the phrase, he was eventually fine. In wealthier homes, the sleep milk was served just after evening prayers and just before storytelling. Not every night, just on the nights when anxiety stuck to the walls. Children received lighter versions, made with warm almond milk and fewer herbs. Elders often insisted on their own recipe, which somehow always included cardamom, no matter the condition. Even more curious was the belief that certain cups improved the effect. Some families kept a special sleep vessel, often a thick-walled clay cup that retained heat longer. A few were inscribed with geometric talismans or verses meant to trap the drowsiness inside. One particularly dramatic entry in a merchant's diary describes losing his sleep cup on a journey and spending 6 nights trying and failing to fall asleep in a camel saddle. His final note, I have no faith in leatherware. You listen now to the faint hiss of coals, the rhythmic breath of others curled in nearby beds. The milk, even in memory, is working. Your thoughts are looser, rounder. Your sense of time begins to smear slightly at the edges. In the distance, an old woman clears her throat, then begins humming a lullaby. You recognize the tuna knot from experience, but from how predictably it folds into the air. Like a melody that's existed forever in the walls, waiting to be remembered. Her voice wavers on the high notes, but the rhythm stays true. It's a lullaby meant not just to quiet children, but to tell adults, it's okay, you're done now, sleep. You imagine what your own version of this sleep milk might include. Maybe cinnamon or toasted sesame. Maybe that fancy sea salt someone left in your kitchen and you've been afraid to use. You picture yourself standing over the fire, stirring, waiting, tasting, and then handing it off to yourself. An act of care from future you to now you. And still, you hover in this state not fully gone, but not really present. A kind of dream limbo where you're only held up by a few remaining thoughts, and even they are considering resigning. One final sip, one last taste of warmth. You close your eyes and picture the sleep milk again, the clay cup, the coals beneath it, the breath of steam rising, the silence that follows, and then nothing. The night deepens. Somewhere in the compound, a dog gives a single bark and then reconsiders. The stars shift positions imperceptibly above, and you shift too, tucking one knee beneath the blanket. You're almost there, hovering just above sleep, like a feather refusing to land. The night deepens. Somewhere in the compound, a dog gives a single bark and then reconsiders. The stars shift positions imperceptibly above, and you shift too, tucking one knee beneath the blanket. You're almost there, hovering just above sleep, like a feather refusing to land. But let's say you weren't quite there yet. Say the warm milk wasn't enough. Say your pillow still felt like a bag of unevenly folded laundry. What then? You'd reach for one of the oldest, most peculiar remedies in the medieval Persian sleep toolkit, a sleep stone. Not a metaphor, an actual stone. Persian physicians, especially those working in the great hospitals of Baghdad and Nishapur, sometimes prescribed patients cooling stones to place beneath the bed or even under the pillow. The idea was that some stones held calming energies. You didn't sleep on them, you let their quiet presence lull your body toward balance. Alabaster was a favorite. So was lapis lazuli, especially for the wealthy who could afford their own version of nighttime geology. Historians still argue whether these stones actually did anything, or whether the ritual itself was the medicine. But in the absence of melatonin gummies, a smooth, cool talisman might have been the best placebo in the empire. You think now about which stone you choose. Something cool to the touch, maybe with a faint shimmer, a pebble from a river you once crossed at sunset, or one you imagined into existence, smooth and blue and humming with non-committal magic. A few records describe even stranger additions. One noblewoman in the 13th century reportedly kept a tiny copper cube near her bed, believing it stole the restlessness from the air. Another manuscript mentions placing a thin sheet of silver beneath the pillow to mirror away bad dreams. That one was banned briefly when alchemists tried to sell fake ones made from polished tin and optimism. You roll onto your side and pretend there's a sleep stone beneath you. Just a little bump in the bedding, cool but not cold, grounding, in the most literal sense. It doesn't matter that you know it's not there, your brain responds anyway. You picture the old apothecary shops, lantern lit and filled with jars that clink when no one's touching them. Shelves labeled in longhand Arabic script, for fevers, for coughs, for insomnia, and longing. You'd point to the latter, and the shopkeeper would nod, disappearing behind a curtain to retrieve a velvet pouch. Inside, a single polished piece of hematite black, heavy, oddly comforting. Hold it while you count backward from 60, he'd say, and do not argue with your thoughts while doing so. It's a ritual, a routine, and that, more than anything, is what the brain craves when trying to sleep, a predictable rhythm. You remember a 12th century Persian sleep manual that insisted all effective rest began with 3 things: warmth, quiet, and something known, a scent, a shape, a sound. The stone under your pillow, that's the something known. Elsewhere in the house, someone finally gives up and turns over loudly. You can hear the frustration in the rustle of their bedding. Maybe they're regretting not placing a cooling stone beneath their mat. Maybe they drank the wrong herbal tea. Or maybe they just forgot to count backward. You let your mind drift now, tracing the contours of your imagined stone. It's cool and silent, heavy but not burdensome. As you breathe, it anchors you. Not just in this room, but in this moment, this medieval Persian night where stars blink slowly and walls hold more silence than sound. This isn't magic, but it's close enough for tonight. The night air carries a faint scent, now earthy, herbal, just a bit sharp at the edges. Someone has begun burning Eastfand, wild rue seeds, in a small clay censer. The smoke snakes upward in lazy spirals, rising and vanishing as though it never meant to be there at all. You breathe in slowly. It's bitter, spicy, comforting in a way that defies logic. In medieval Persia, burning Isfand was a common bedtime ritual, part medicine, part magic, part domestic habit no one questioned too closely. The seeds, when tossed onto glowing coals, released a crackling pop and a pungent, smoky scent, said to drive away evil air, bad spirits, and, more practically, biting insects. Whether or not the bugs respected the ritual is unclear, but humans certainly did. You shift again, closer to the imaginary smoke. It tingles slightly in your nostrils, like old parchment or pepper crushed in a cloth. It smells like the end of gossip, like a room winding down. One Persian grandmother, whose house was described by a wandering poet as 70% rugs and 30% superstition, claimed that burning Esfand just before sleep would distract the spirits so they forget to haunt your dreams. Historians still argue whether the spirits in question were literal jinn or metaphorical regrets. The science of it? Esfand contains harmaline, a naturally occurring compound with mild psychoactive properties. Not enough to send you spinning, just enough to nudge your thoughts out of their spirals. Like someone gently tapping your forehead and whispering, shh. Other homes used a blend of herbs. Lavender wasn't native but had started arriving via trade, tucked inside spice caravans like a sleepy stowaway. More common was dried chamomile, pennyroyal, or crushed myrtle leaves, mixed into little bundles and tucked beneath pillows or hung near the bed. Some were just for scent. Others were believed to charm the restless heart. You once heard a tale about a traveling judge who never slept in the same bed twice without first fumigating it with a mixture of rose petals and wormwood. His reasoning? No two beds carry the same memories. That feels a little dramatic, but you get it. Beds can hold echoes, so people burn things not just for sleep, but for silence. Tonight, the scent lingers in your clothes. You're not sure if it's real or just a trick of the storytelling, but you let it wrap around you anyway. A smoky shawl, a slow exhale. In some homes, the bedtime burner and ornate censer passed down through generations was treated like a family heirloom. Grandmothers taught granddaughters how to pack it just right. Too little, and the smoke dies fast. Too much, and the room turns into a headache. The goal was always the same: gentle spirals, not thick fog. One eccentric physician, writing in Shiraz in the early 1200s, kept a log of his patients' sleep issues. Next to each entry, he scribbled what scent blend he used to help them settle. The most frequent recipe? Rue dried quince skin and something he only referred to as the calming leaf. Modern historians have no idea what that last one was. Guesses range from mint to fig to something entirely imaginary. Maybe it didn't matter. Maybe naming it was the magic. You roll over, deeply aware now of how scent weaves through sleep. Not just the herbs, but the room itself. The faint sour of clay, the sweet hint of dates from someone's earlier snack, the trace of sweat in a cotton pillowcase. It's all part of the architecture of rest. Your body catalogs it, your mind uses it to decide whether it's safe to let go. A breeze drifts in, pushing a little curl of smoke across your face. You imagine it's choosing you deliberately, whispering, your turn. And so you close your eyes, let the scent settle in your chest, let it float you further down into that slow, syrupy place between thoughts. One last puff from the censer, one more invisible curl. You exhale. By now, the room has gone quiet, not silent, just soft. A few sleepy sighs drift up from mats on the floor. A robe rustles faintly. Somewhere near the edge of your awareness, a wooden shutter creaks open to let in more of the cool night air. You imagine your fingers curling under the edge of your blanket. Not out of fear, just ritual. You're nearly asleep, but if your mind still needs one more lullaby, let's drift a little further this time, to the bedroom walls themselves. In wealthier Persian homes, particularly in the city of Ray or the literary circles of Isfahan, it wasn't unusual for the walls of sleeping chambers to be painted with soft colors and soothing symbols. Some rooms even feature quiet constellations, hand-drawn onto ceilings in gold leaf and ultramarine. You lie there, eyes half-lidded, and imagine your gaze tracing those stars. Not real stars, of course, but maybe that's better. These ones don't burn out. One nobleman's private quarters reportedly featured an entire mural dedicated to the 7 sleepers of the Kavia group of youths who, according to legend, slept for centuries in divine slumber. The story was meant to inspire piety, but let's be honest, it also set some serious sleep goals. Meanwhile, less opulent homes still found ways to invite sleep through visual calm. Simple cotton hangings, hand-embroidered with quiet verses from the Quran, or lines of poetry by Saadi or Hafez, were draped over walls or across bed frames. Some verses were chosen for their soothing cadence, alone repeated soft syllables that, when read aloud, could almost rock the reader to sleep. One inscription found in an old traveler's guest house read, "You are safe, you are fed, you are warm. Sleep and forget." No author, just a promise. Historians still argue whether these hangings serve more as spiritual protection or a psychological balm. The answer is probably yes. But even the modest rooms had their charm. In certain villages, ceilings were made of woven reeds or wooden slats. As you lay in bed, your eyes might follow the imperfect lines overhead. Like a visual lullaby, a pattern made not to distract, but to soothe. Your fingers would sometimes trace the same lines in the air just to feel like part of it. The idea wasn't just to decorate the room, it was to lull the body into feeling held, softened, slightly erased, as if you didn't matter, but in the nicest possible way. Like a leaf among leaves, swaying gently. One curious account tells of a minor poet in Tabriz who couldn't sleep unless the pattern above his bed contained exactly 17 floral motifs. Any more or less, and he claimed, the chaos of the world creeps in through the seams. He may have been dramatic, but you understand the urge. Tonight, your own imaginary walls glow with something like candlelight. The shadows shift gently, like dancers just finishing a performance. The ceiling overhead is soft blue, and whether or not it's painted with stars, your mind fills them in anyway. Elsewhere in the house, someone mutters a short prayer and then turns to sleep. You can't make out the words, but the cadence is unmistakable. Slow, certain, and final. Like a curtain gently drawing closed. You blink slowly, then let your eyes close fully. You imagine the mural of the 7 sleepers, all curled up in various poses, eternal nap takers. You decide your favorite is the one with the dog curled at his feet, eyes shut, tail flicking in some ancient dream. You think, maybe I'll sleep for 100 years too, but just 8 would be fine. One more breath in, one more breath out. Your breathing has slowed, now longer exhales, fewer fidgets. The imaginary blanket is warm but not stifling. Your limbs have surrendered to the mattress. But just before you tip over into sleep completely, your mind tosses up one last sleepy curiosity. What did people in medieval Persia drink when they couldn't fall asleep? The short answer? A lot of things. Some sweet, some bitter, and some, frankly, questionable. Let's start with the classic, warm barley water. You picture a small copper pot hanging over low coals. Inside, barley grains bob gently in simmering water, releasing a faintly nutty scent. After about an hour, the mixture is strained and the resulting liquid is poured into a simple ceramic cup. Add a spoonful of honey, if you're luckier, if you're pretending to be. Then drink slowly. This wasn't a luxury. This was common. Barley water was inexpensive, mildly sedative, and easy to digest. In fact, many physicians recommended it not only for insomnia, but for anxiety, melancholy, and what they called soul heaviness, the sense of being weighed down by one's own thoughts. We've all been there. You sip your imaginary cup, and the warmth spreads down your throat and into your chest. It tastes like a lullaby written in steam. If that didn't work, people might try rosewater syrup, diluted in warm milk or even wine. Rosewater wasn't just for perfume, it was considered medicinal. In the right dose, it calmed the nerves. Too much, and you'd spend the night wide-eyed and wondering if the rug was looking at you funny. So, moderation mattered. A more ambitious drink was opium poppy tea, rare and carefully prepared decoction, strictly controlled and often reserved for those suffering chronic pain or grief. While it could indeed induce drowsiness, its risks were well known even then. Most apothecaries refuse to sell it without a physician's signature, or at the very least, a long story involving heartbreak and poetry. Historians still argue whether these stronger concoctions were given for true insomnia or for difficult personalities who just needed to stop talking after sunset. We may never know. But not all sleep drinks were liquid. Some remedies involve chewing a blend of herbs just before bed. Lettuce seed, believe it or not, was prized for its supposed sleep-inducing qualities. Physicians from Galen to Avicenna praised its cooling nature. Mixed with dates and sesame, it formed a sticky little pellet you could chew slowly as you unwound. It tasted unconvincing. But that wasn't the point. It was the ritual. The small, deliberate act of telling your body, we are done for today. One scroll describes an elderly merchant in Yazd who swore by his nightly blend of steeped almond milk, cardamom, and a drop of vinegar. It quiets the stomach, he wrote, and the mind follows soon after. You can almost taste it, now creamy, spiced, just a little sour. Somehow, it works. You might laugh softly at the idea of drinking vinegar before bed. But then again, you've probably tried stranger things. At least theirs came with poetry. Some drinks were even served with a bedtime verse written on the cup. One fragment survives. Sip slow, sleep soon, let moonlight guard the room. Tonight, you imagine holding one of those cups. Ceramic, slightly cracked, warm in your hands. The drink inside isn't magic, but the feeling is. Elsewhere in the house, someone stirs a pot over the fire, and the scent of anise drifts your way. Not strong, just a hint, just enough to make your mouth water slightly, even in the dark. You're not really thirsty, you're just comforted by the thought that someone, somewhere, is tending something warm. You curl inward, just a little. The drink is finished. The cup has been set aside. Your tongue carries a ghost of rose, or barley, or bitter poppy, depending on which story you've chosen to believe tonight. And whether it works or not, you've done your part. You've sipped, you've exhaled, you've joined 1,000 years of sleepless people trying their best. And sometimes, that's enough. It's well past midnight nowhere, whatever the medieval equivalent of that means, since no one's checking the clock. Time here is counted by candle stubs, by how low the oil burns in the lamp, by the silence in the streets outside. And while you're sinking deeper under your blanket, another question drifts across your mind like a moth in lamplight. What did they wear to bed? The answer is not pajamas, at least not the way you know them. In medieval Persia, nightwear was often just a softer, looser version of daywear. Long linen or cotton tunics, often worn without the outer layers. For the wealthier folks, silk was the ultimate indulgence. Not just because of its softness, but because of its symbolic meaning. Silk was calm. Silk meant you were safe enough to be delicate. You imagine yourself now, slipping into a long tunic dyed a soft indigo blue. It reaches your ankles. The sleeves are wide and forgiving. It smells faintly of rosewater soap and sun. You slide into it and immediately feel your shoulders drop. There's something deeply comforting about clothes that ask nothing of you. In colder seasons, people added a lightweight robe or a bow over their sleep tunic. These were sometimes quilted with wool or padded with cotton scraps. Some even stitched prayers into the lining, hidden like a whisper against the chest. God, protect this sleeper from harm, from worry, from bad dreams. Historians still debate whether those embroidered prayers were more spiritual armor or simply habit-like how we might double knot our shoes without thinking. Either way, it's touching. And let's not forget the head coverings. Many slept with light scarves or soft caps, especially during winter, not just for warmth, but to keep the body's energy contained, as they saw it. One physician claimed that too much exposure of the head at night caused wandering thoughts, which, honestly, sounds a lot like scrolling your phone at 2 a.m. Children were often swaddled well into toddlerhood, not tightly, but snug enough to feel held. Their bedtime clothes were sometimes scented with crushed marjoram or thyme, slipped into little pouches tied at the waist. One grandmother claimed it kept away the dreams of goats. No one quite knows what that means, but it's hard not to smile at the idea. For those with aching joints or mysterious nighttime chills, special bedtime socks were knit from camel wool. Yes, camel wool soft, surprisingly breathable, and warm enough to comfort the crankiest bones. One elderly scribe allegedly refused to sleep without his blessed camel toes. He meant the socks, obviously, but the phrasing has unfortunately outlived him. You chuckle quietly to yourself and wiggle your own imaginary toes under the blanket. Maybe you'd like a pair too. Even among the poor, nighttime clothing was given care. Rags were washed and aired out before sleep. Torn sleeves were mended by moonlight. A shirt might be patched 6 times, but if it softened with every wash, it earned a place in the bedtime rotation. Sleep was sacred enough to deserve its own uniform even, if that uniform was humble. And for some, there was a final ritual. The untying of belts, the loosening of turbans, the unwinding of hair. Not flashy, not public, just the quiet unfurling of the day. You imagine your own belt loosening, your spine straightening slightly, your scalp tingling with relief as your hair falls free. These little moments, these private signals whisper to your body, it's okay now. The performance is over. So tonight, whether you're in silk or patched cotton or some soft blend of imagined linen, you are dressed for sleep, not to impress, not to be seen, just to be held. Your sleeves fall gently over your hands, the collar drapes loose, the air against your skin is just the right temperature, the dream is almost ready to begin. As your eyelids grow heavier and the room quiets, your mind drifts deeper into the folds of sleep. But before your mind fully surrenders to that quiet abyss, something unexpected slips into your thoughts. How did people in medieval Persia create their beds in the first place? You can picture it now, a soft, welcoming space designed for the ritual of sleep. The bed itself was often little more than a thin mattress on a simple frame. No elaborate headboards or giant piles of pillows. But the mattress? The mattress was key. For those who could afford it, the bed was layered with multiple cushions, filled with soft wool, feathers, or even goat hair. These materials, while not luxurious by today's standards, created a level of comfort that still feels foreign in its simplicity. The goat hair, once softened and treated, provided just enough give to sink into while also staying firm enough to support the body through the night. Not too soft, not too firm, just enough of both to lull a person into a state of relaxed stillness. The wealthy might have added decorative quilts, sewn from silk or brightly dyed cotton, and some even had their linen scented with herbs like lavender or clove. But for the most part, it was simplicity that reigned. A clean, crisp bed meant peace, and peace, of course, meant rest. Now, imagine you're lying there in one of those beds, the air cool against your face, a soft woolen blanket tucked around your shoulders. The mattress beneath you is firm but welcoming, and you can feel your body sinking into the softness of it. Your thoughts easing out of their daily hustle. In the cooler months, people used heavier blankets, some made from thick wool, or, for the fortunate few, velvet. Velvet was prized not just for its warmth, but for the rich texture it added to the bed. For many, slipping beneath a velvet blanket was a rare, indulgent experience, a little like sinking into a cloud. But comfort wasn't the only consideration. For many, especially those living in urban areas, the bed had a practical purpose as well. In a busy city like Baghdad or Shiraz, the day often stretched long into the evening. Shops stayed open late, and the sounds of bustling life never truly quieted. So, while your bed was your place to rest, it also doubled as your personal retreat. It was where you could escape the noise of the world, curling up in the cocoon of your own space, surrounded by the familiar scent of your linens and the gentle lull of your chosen sleep rituals. One clever story from the courts of the Seljuks tells of a scribe who used to drape his bed with a thick, almost impenetrable curtain. This curtain was designed not just to block out drafts, but to protect against unwanted attention. He'd often say, "A man who sleeps without this shield invites the world into his dreams." His reasoning? Sometimes, even sleep needs privacy. Historians still debate whether the importance of the bed was truly about comfort or about protecting one's personal space from the outside world. Perhaps, as in many things, it was both. You can't separate the physical act of sleep from the mental, emotional need for sanctuary. After all, if your bed could hold you physically, it could hold your dreams as well. In some cases, the simplest sleep arrangements were paired with the most elaborate gestures. A small clay lamp, for example, could be left burning near the bed, just enough light to make sure no unexpected guests wandered in during the night. These lamps were often filled with olive oil and, if you were lucky, perfumed with rose or jasmine. The glow was soft, warm, and steady, just enough to guide you into sleep, but not so bright that it would disturb the quiet. Tonight, you imagine your own bed, simple yet perfectly arranged. The mattress is firm but comfortable, and the blanket lies across your body like a gentle weight. There's a faint scent in the air, perhaps a touch of lavender or rosemary drifting from somewhere nearby. Maybe it's in your pillow, or perhaps it's just the lingering scent of the story you've been listening to. Either way, it's enough to pull you deeper into this quiet, secure space. With your surroundings now perfectly arranged, there's nothing left to do but let yourself drift. The room is still, save for the soft hum of nighttime air. You settle in further, letting your body melt into the mattress, ready to embrace the rest you've earned. Your bed has become your sanctuary, and your mind finally agrees to let go. The whispers of the world outside seem so far away now. It's just you, your mattress, and the peaceful, comforting blanket of sleep that's slowly enveloping you. Now, the world beyond your bed has slipped away entirely. The noises, the concerns, they seem distant, muffled, as if wrapped in layers of soft wool. It's just you now, tucked into your carefully constructed nest, and the last few thoughts that were holding on begin to soften. Before sleep fully claims you, though, let's indulge in one more curiosity: the quiet beauty of ancient Persian sleep music. Music that wasn't designed to wake you up, but to coax you into the sweetest, most gentle slumber. You might imagine the sounds of instruments, but not the thunderous, vibrant strings or drums you might expect. Instead, Persian musicians favored subtle, delicate, instrument-small, almost whispering sounds. The ni, a bamboo flute, was often played, its breathy tones barely more than a sigh. The notes floated like leaves on a slow river, each note blending gently into the next, as though to hold the listener in a state of constant calm. Alongside the ni, the tar, a long-necked lute might be strummed softly, its strings vibrating in a way that felt more like a lullaby than a tune. The melodies were usually slow, repetitive, designed to entrance the listener into a kind of trance. No rush, no urgency, just gentle, drawn-out chords that invited you to let go. You picture it now, the soft rhythm of the ney winding through the air around your bed, the faint strum of the tar rising and falling in the background. You are not listening to the music, rather, you are floating with it. Each note weaves into the fabric of your thoughts, untangling knots that had no place in sleep. The music isn't pushing you, it's simply guiding you. Historians still debate whether these ancient Persian lullabies were designed more for spiritual elevation or for pure relaxation. The fact that these melodies were often accompanied by a subtle sense of incense or the dim flicker of oil lamps suggests a holistic approach to the art of sleep. Sound, scent, and ambiance work together like a careful formula, a recipe for the quietest night of rest. It's not surprising, then, that the same attention to detail was given to silence in Persia. In fact, the act of quieting the environment before sleep was seen as just as important as the preparation of the bed or the selection of the right herbs. The right silence wasn't simply the absence of sound, it was the presence of peace. People would even go so far as to say a prayer before lying down, invoking the calm of night to ease their minds. You might wonder, as your own room now quiets around you, if the music and quieting rituals really worked. Could something as simple as gentle, sound, soothing, non-urgent really be the key to unlocking the perfect night of rest? It's hard to say, but there's no denying that the world they built around sleep was delicate, almost reverential. Every detail was considered, from the warmth of the blankets to the music in the air to the silence that lingered just before closing your eyes. Now, as you settle further into your bed, the faintest hint of a melody rises once more in your imagination. It's barely there, but you can hear it if you listen carefully enough. The ni, the tar, the soft shimmer of incense in the background, just enough to carry you deeper. You let go, your body relaxed and free, the music floating alongside you like an invitation. It's all enough. The room, the bed, the air, you. The quiet is perfect. The darkness is soft. You feel yourself slip just a little deeper now, as if the music has wrapped you in its arms and you are free to float away. The room around you is still, with just a whisper of air moving through the window. You can hear the faint rustling of the night, but it doesn't intrude. The world outside remains far away. And within this stillness, something wonderful begins to unfold your body's connection to the rhythms of sleep, guided by a centuries-old tradition. In medieval Persia, they believed that dreams were not random or chaotic, but were instead deeply connected to the body's state of health and well-being. Dreams, they thought, were the body's way of processing emotions, concerns, and even physical discomfort. Thus, the act of preparing for sleep wasn't just about creating an environment of physical comfort. It was about creating an environment that could foster a peaceful mind capable of dreaming in the clearest, most peaceful way. The preparations for sleep were detailed and intentional. Much like how you've unwound tonight, the Persians believed that the body and mind needed time to transition. There were certain practices they performed before bed that were meant to clear the mind and prepare it for the visions of sleep. One such practice involved a slow, calming ritual of breathing exercises. They'd breathe deeply, filling their lungs slowly with air, then exhale just as deliberately. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth, they imagined each breath taking away the weight of the day physically, mentally, and emotionally. It wasn't so much about clearing your thoughts, but allowing them to float away like feathers in the wind. The space between each breath became a soft, gentle lullaby bridge between the waking world and the world of dreams. You can picture it now, lying on your back, your breath moving in time with the slow rhythm of the night, your body heavy but relaxed, the stillness all around you. Every breath is like a wave lapping against the shore, soothing you further with each passing second. The body begins to feel weightless, as if the very air around you is holding you up, cradling you as you prepare to let go. Now imagine yourself following this practice, much as they did centuries ago, breathing in the tranquility of the night, letting the deep, steady breaths carry you toward a state of perfect calm. The act is simple but effective, and with each cycle of breath, you feel yourself drifting further. They didn't stop at breathing exercises though. To aid the transition into sleep, many would apply soothing balms or oils to their bodies before lying down. These were usually infused with calming herbs, lavender, rosemary, or even a touch of frankincense. The idea was that the scent would settle over the body, filling the room with a calming aura. The smell would be a constant companion through the night, gentle and unobtrusive. Historians still debate whether these oils had true medicinal value or whether the psychological comfort they provided was more significant than their physical effects. Regardless, the ritual of applying them before sleep wasn't merely about physical relaxation. It was a small act of intentional care. It reminded the body that it was time to rest, time to unwind, time to surrender. And you too may feel the gentle tug of those same ideas now. The warmth of your bed, the rhythmic cadence of your breath, the imagined scent of lavender filling the air. All of these elements, however simple, are working together to craft the perfect environment for your rest. In Persia, it wasn't just the body that was taken care of, it was the mind as well. The belief was that the mind had to be as soothed as the body in order to achieve restful sleep. So, before sleep, it wasn't uncommon for people to engage in a short prayer or meditative chant. These weren't long, drawn-out rituals. They were short, quiet invocations, meant to focus the mind and ease the soul. Perhaps they whispered words of protection or peace, asking the divine for rest and serenity, or perhaps they simply recited affirmations of comfort and security, affirmations we might now call mantras or positive sleep intentions. The words themselves didn't matter much, as long as they served the purpose of preparing the heart and mind for the quiet that was to come. You might now imagine yourself repeating soft, comforting words under your breath as you drift closer to sleep. It's as though the prayers, the breathing, and the scents create a barrier between you and the outside world. The stillness around you grows deeper as you fall further into this space. The rituals of sleep are as much a part of the process as the actual act of falling asleep itself. Each step leads to the next. a soft and deliberate series of actions that builds a quiet bridge between the conscious and the unconscious. And as you surrender to these rituals now, you join the generations before you, who knew that sleep was not just an event, but an experience, a journey that began long before your body sank into the mattress, and long after you closed your eyes. And now, finally, after the prayers and the oils, the breaths and the stillness, it's time. The last step has been taken. All that's left to do is to let go. At last, the act of letting go is the final, delicate step in the journey towards sleep, and is almost always the hardest. We've all been there, our bodies are exhausted, our surroundings are perfect, and we've even prepared our minds as best we can. But still, there's that lingering hesitation, the soft resistance that keeps us tethered to the waking world. You might have felt it tonight, the gentle push-pull between being wide awake and nearly asleep. It's a natural part of the process. The mind and body don't always surrender easily to sleep, even when every condition seems just right. But the ancient Persians had a little secret when it came to easing that last hurdle. They believed that the final act of letting go was tied to trust. Trust in the rituals, trust in the body's natural rhythm, and perhaps most importantly, trust in the night itself. They knew that no matter how long it took, the act of surrendering to sleep was ultimately about trusting the process. You didn't need to force it. You didn't need to will yourself to sleep. You simply had to allow it to happen. As you lie in your own bed, you can almost hear the ancient wisdom echoing through the stillness. Let go. The night will take care of the rest. This was the message carried through the quiet, peaceful rituals of medieval Persia. And perhaps there's something magical in that idea. Even in today's fast-paced world, where we're all so accustomed to controlling every moment of our lives. But here, in the quiet of the night, there is nothing to control. The only thing left to do is to release your body and mind to the rhythms of sleep. You might notice it now, how your breath, which was once deliberate and controlled, has slowed down. The air feels cooler against your skin, and the weight of your body sinks deeper into the mattress. Your muscles, once tense from the day, have loosened. Your mind, which once flitted from thought to thought, has become softer, quieter, almost still. It's a gentle process, this letting go. 1 minute, you're aware of your body, of the bed beneath you, of the soft rise and fall of your chest. The next, you're not. It's subtle, but it's there. The moment when your consciousness fades from one world to the next. What's fascinating is that even in the ancient world, the Persians were aware of this delicate transition. They believed that sleep wasn't an event, but a slow unfolding. And so, they took their time with it, never rushing, never forcing. They believed that pushing too hard would actually disrupt the process. Instead, they taught that true rest could only come when you surrendered fully, when you trusted that your body knew what to do. Tonight, as you feel yourself drifting further, you begin to trust, too. The tension in your limbs starts to soften, and your breath deepens. Not out of effort, but simply because it knows it's time. You are, at this very moment, embodying the same wisdom those ancient Persians practiced centuries ago. You are surrendering to the night, trusting that the world will keep turning without you for a little while. You're slipping into a world of rest where the only thing that matters is the quiet. This, too, is a ritual as old as time itself. The trust in sleep, the trust in the night, the understanding that even though you can't control it, your body will do its work while you rest. At this point, you are so close to sleep that the divide between waking and dreaming is almost imperceptible. There's no rush now. There's nothing left to do. Just the faintest sensation of floating in the warmth of your blankets, surrounded by the stillness of the world. And in that stillness, you feel a profound sense of relief. You've done it. You've released your body, your mind, and your spirit. The night is now yours, and in it, you are free to rest without a care, trusting that the journey of sleep will carry you where it needs to. By now, you are deep within the cocoon of slumber, but there's something profoundly comforting in the knowledge that sleep, in its most peaceful form, isn't just a break from the day. It's an ancient, ritualistic process that has been perfected over centuries. Tonight, as you lie comfortably in your bed, you are connected to generations of people who understood, perhaps better than we do today, the importance of nurturing not only the body, but the mind before rest. In medieval Persia, the final moments of sleep preparation weren't just about external rituals. They also revolved around a spiritual transition. There was, for them, a belief that sleep was not simply a biological need, but a spiritual journey and opportunity to communicate with the soul, to shed the worries of the day, and to open yourself to dreams and visions. This view of sleep was almost sacred. Now, as you lie there, you may recall the ancient Persian belief that sleep was a bridge between the waking world and the realm of dreams. They saw sleep as a pathway to spiritual renewal. Their preparation rituals weren't just for relaxation. They were meant to align the mind and spirit with the rhythms of the universe. They believed that the state of rest was a time when the soul could travel freely and sometimes receive divine messages. Imagine, just for a moment, what that might have felt like. The soft, rhythmic pulse of your own breathing, the stillness surrounding you, and the belief that, as you sleep, your soul is allowed to wander, unfettered by the constraints of the physical world. For the ancient Persians, this sense of freedom was both a privilege and a necessity. Without that mental and spiritual renewal, they believed the body would struggle to find true peace. As you relax even further, you can almost sense that shift, your mind releasing the last thoughts that were keeping you tethered to the waking world. You begin to drift into a space where time loses meaning, where your only focus is the rise and fall of your breath, the way the warmth of the blanket surrounds you like a gentle embrace. The body, which had once been so aware of the world, now feels lighter, and the heavy weight of consciousness begins to fade into the background. But sleep, as the ancient Persians understood, it wasn't just about detachment from the world around you. It was also about renewal. In their rituals, it wasn't uncommon to invoke words of renewal before sleep, a prayer, a blessing, or a simple reflection on the day's experiences. They would say, "May I wake renewed." It was a phrase meant to close the loop between the exhaustion of the day and the fresh, peaceful energy of the morning. As you breathe softly, sinking deeper, imagine yourself uttering those words, "May I wake renewed." You feel the weight of your body dissolve, the last whispers of the day's worries fading into the distance. The thoughts that seemed so important only moments ago are now mere echoes in your mind. You've stepped into the gentle embrace of sleep, and with it comes the gift of renewal. The promise that when morning comes, you'll feel refreshed, as if the night has washed away all the weariness you carried. Historians still debate whether these pre-sleep practices, whether it was prayer, herbs, music, or breathing, had a direct impact on physical rest. But there's no denying the powerful psychological effect they had. The ritual itself, the act of preparing the body and mind for sleep, might have been just as important, if not more so, than the actual sleep that followed. Now, as you approach the final moments of this day's journey, the connection to the past becomes tangible. You, too, are part of this ongoing, universal tradition of preparing for rest, aligning your body, calming your mind, and trusting in the peaceful process of surrendering to sleep. And as your consciousness sinks deeper into the comfort of the night, you realize that you don't need to fight the transition anymore. It's effortless now. The soul, like the body, has been allowed to rest, and the world outside no longer exists. Only peace remains. The night is yours, unfolding gently as you slip deeper and deeper into its embrace. You don't need to think about it. You don't need to try. You're here now, in this place of tranquility, with everything around you soft, calm, and safe. And with that, the final piece of the ritual has fallen into place. Your body and mind are at rest. The night has taken over. Sleep, now, is no longer something you're approaching. It's something you're within. The line has blurred completely. You are resting not because you've made it to the end of the day, but because your body and spirit have been guided gently to this perfect stillness. In the final moments before your dreams truly take over, let's settle into the idea that rest is an act of restoration, not just pause. This wasn't lost on medieval Persian thinkers. In fact, the great physicians and philosophers of the Arab people like Avicenna argued that proper rest could literally rebalance the humors of the body. Sleep was not just a break, it was a prescription, a treatment. To them, a night of poor sleep could offset your body's inner harmony, while a carefully prepared and protected night of deep rest could make you sharper, calmer, more aligned with both your physical needs and the wider universe. They saw sleep as the ultimate equalizer, a nightly return to balance. So if you've made it this far, trust that you're participating in something deeply human, beautifully ordinary, and yet quietly profound. Tonight, as your limbs feel heavy in the most comforting way, as your chest rises and falls in a slow, easy rhythm, your body is already repairing itself. Your heart rate has slowed. Your muscles have loosened. Your brain is gently filing the memories of the day into neat little drawers you'll never see. And your soul? In the way the Persians saw it, your soul might be traveling just slightly beyond your body's borders now, wandering through a dream space where logic is soft and images feel like whispers. Perhaps you'll visit a garden beside a stream, shaded by fig trees. Perhaps you'll simply drift through color and warmth and silence. There is no destination, only a feeling, only peace. Historians still argue whether ancient practices like herbal poultices, breath techniques, or recited verses had any measurable medical impact on deep sleep cycles. But it's not really about measurement, is it? It's about the intent behind the ritual. It's about doing something small, something kind, for yourself. Preparing for rest, like preparing a beautiful meal, is a form of care. The care may be ancient, but its meaning is timeless. And now, dear listener, your part in this timeless act is nearly complete. Let's slow everything down. Let the words fade a bit more. Let the details grow blurry, soft, like moonlight seen through a curtain. Your body is a little heavier now, as though gravity itself is cradling you with the weight of centuries. Every breath you take is slower than the last. Every part of your body has settled into stillness. You don't have to think anymore. You don't have to plan or reflect or remember what came earlier. Even this story is dissolving now, like sugar in warm tea. There's a little window in your mind, and it's gently closing. The light behind it is soft and gold. You don't need to stay awake for it. It will be there when you wake. The past has guided you here. The Persians, with their slow rituals and gentle nights, have whispered you into this place of ease. Their secrets are yours now, not just ideas, but sensations. The warm oil on your temples, the flicker of a lantern, the silk blanket over your toes. Your bed is quiet. The room is calm. The world outside has stepped back. So give into it. Give into the lull, the pause, the healing hush. Nothing more is needed. You've done enough for today. You're safe. You're warm. You're drifting. You are asleep. Word count, 1078. Window down, 300 words. Let's take these last few breaths together, long and slow. In and out. Softly now. Again and again. There's no need to hold on to anything else. If there are thoughts still flickering, let them pass through like clouds across the moon drifting. Silent, soft at the edges. They don't need answers right now. They're just passing by. Your body knows what to do. It's known for centuries, since before you were born, since the first nights on this earth. Sleep is ancient, and it belongs to you. There's nothing left to decide, nothing to fix, nothing to plan, only this moment, this blanket, this breath. You are safe here. You are whole here. Even if the day was scattered, even if your mind is tired, even if your heart felt a little too heavy earlier, this is the place where it all becomes weightless. This is your soft landing. The hush around you isn't empty, it's full of peace. It cradles you, holds you, rocks you gently into the deeper layers of rest. Let the rhythm of your breath guide you, like a boat rocking slowly on a calm sea. Let yourself drift, further, deeper. You're not alone in this quiet. The world is sleeping with you. Across oceans and cities and hills, others are laying their heads down too, letting go too. So float now, sink, sleep.